They say teen love is the most passionate experience a person can have. Not that I would know, but what I do know is the risk and the intensity of allowing an infatuation with a classmate to boil over into full-blown obsession. Everything was going perfectly, and then I made one mistake. One time. My competitive male drive pushed me to anger, and I let it show. And not even toward her. But she saw it anyway. And that was all it took for it all to unravel. The first week of high school is always full of anxious excitement and fear, and that was no different for me, especially considering what I had just come out of. The 8th grade had been brutal for me. I had developed my first real crush, which ended in disaster. She ended up telling the whole school I was a creepy stalker, and that left a scar and a persistent fear of girls I was attracted to. It also motivated me to lose weight, get a haircut, dress better, and ascend big time. I was normal height for a freshman, and back then, for that 1 year, I was actually considered desirable. But I wasn't really aware of that at that point. So on that warm summer day in 2010, on the first week of school, I walked into our pre-lunch art class with my 6'5" best friend for the first time. And then I saw this girl who put my previous crush to shame. She had long, dark, curly, wavy hair that made her look like a Greek goddess. We'll call her Pearl. She was a fellow freshman, had fair skin, a cute button nose, blue eyes, and small, feminine hands and feet. She was also a few inches taller than me, like around 5'8", but I didn't really care about height back then. But what really set my loins ablaze was her figure. She had the most voluptuous, curvaceous form I had ever seen in real life up to that point. The kind of girl I'd fantasized about for years. These thick thunder thighs and broad hips that flared out at just the right spot in her tight blue jeans wider than her narrow shoulders. Soft and supple. I was smitten. Now, I can't remember if we chose our seats in that class or were assigned them, but I couldn't believe my luck when I learned I'd be sitting with my best friend, the girl of my dreams, another girl we were friendly with, and no other guys to compete with. Because my 6'5" best friend respected that this was the girl I liked, and he had other options. And art was a really social class, too, so it would give us endless opportunities to get close. But after what happened to me in 8th grade, I was pretty damn nervous. Back then, due to my precocious puberty, my hormones were raging far beyond anyone else's. So when I liked girls, I really liked girls. And it was never about love. When I started seeing Pearl around campus, it only made me want her more. Apparently, she was a cheerleader. I would have liked her even if she wasn't. But that uniform, ugh, the skirt was so short. It left her entire jiggling thighs visible, cellulite and all. You could see a lot more than that sometimes, too. I don't think that skirt was built to contain that much woman. And the way it spread out when she sat down. I had a hard time keeping my eyes off her. And she definitely caught me a few times. But yeah, this wasn't puppy love. These hormones were on a different level. I've never wanted a girl so bad in my life. I'm talking couldn't sleep, couldn't think, couldn't function in class. I thought about her constantly. And she was right there in front of me every day. Now, this other girl at the table, the one I mentioned earlier, she was like this scene chick. I'll show an example. You know, the RAR XD type that draws cute little dinosaurs and edgy journal entries, who wears thick eyeliner, black dyed scene hair, and those sweaters that are too long and dangle off their hand as they awkwardly cover their mouths. But she seemed to think my friend and I were pretty cool, and she would end up playing an important role in this story here pretty soon. Unfortunately, for a few months, things went pretty damn well. But I was still too nervous to proceed with escalating things in any way. So one day, when Pearl wasn't there, I ended up having a conversation with this scene girl and actually telling her about my crush on Pearl. Thankfully, instead of calling me a creepy stalker, she said it was really cute and decided to help me when I told her how nervous I was. And she also reassured me when I asked her if she thought that Pearl actually liked my tall best friend. But this friendly scene girl basically helped me get Pearl's phone number by bringing it up somehow in a really smooth way. And we actually started texting after that. I remember texting back and forth with her on my Sprint sliding keyboard phone for several months at least. I started using the green tobacco a few months into the school year, and I remember getting my first pack of cigarettes, Marb Reds. I was on the tennis team. I remember sitting on the warm sidewalk after tennis practice in that golden hour sunlight, no one else around. I'd light a stove, take a drag, and listen to ska punk from the 90s while I texted the girl of my dreams. It was a magical time in my life. But sadly, something would come to disrupt my perfect world. A new guy joined the table. He was a fellow stoner with short, buzzed hair and a light mustache. The kind of guy who'd wear gauges, you know? He was a lot taller than me, and I'm pretty sure he had a girlfriend already, too. He seemed like one of those cool guys, and it's safe to say I was pretty concerned. I put up with it for a long time. This new guy comes in, and he's annoying as fuck. He steals all the attention and makes me feel replaced. He was just so loud and constantly talking. And to my dismay, the girls were always laughing at whatever he said every 20 fucking seconds. And I got the feeling that he liked the same girl I did. Each day that went by, I felt more and more competitive over Pearl. And one day I learned there's another guy who liked her. We'll call him Joe. And Joe was actually my worst bully from middle school. He's like 8 inches taller than me. He would always come up to me and slap me and laugh in my face every single day. I remember hating him so much that I drew pictures of him and the school burning. Until one day, he tried slapping me across the street from the school at the fire station while waiting to get picked up. And I snapped and blacked out. Ended up screaming and wailing at him and chasing him into the street. He laughed and told me he'd stop messing with me, and we shook on it, and he did indeed stop. But that didn't make me hate him any less, especially now. And now he was a football player, and liked the same girl. And another girl told me that she thought he was cute and tall. I remember being so mad I wanted to fight the guy. And I certainly would have gotten my shit pushed in. So now I'm surrounded by superior competitors. In my head, I was completely fucked. She'd never choose me over these other guys. But the thing is, a bunch of girls liked me back then. So I probably had more of a chance than I thought. I probably should have just kept texting her and tried to butt into the conversation whenever I could. But instead, I let my frustration build up until I couldn't hold it in anymore. I guess it was just one day too many that pushed me over the edge. One too many times hearing the sound of his deep voice making those dumb, dirty jokes and these girls laughing every fucking time. We were working with X-Acto knives that day, doing some kind of craft project. I was walking back to my seat as I passed him and his grating voice. I just happened to be holding the blade in my hand. I didn't mean to be threatening, but I just cracked and punched the file cabinet a couple feet beside him along the wall and growled "Grrr," and made an angry grunt like a karate person does when they chop people. I didn't even do it that hard. Like, the teacher didn't even complain. The classroom was already pretty loud anyway. But I definitely caught the table's attention because everyone stopped talking immediately and looked right at me. And I looked angrily at the new guy as he sat there bewildered, and I didn't say anything else. Except, if I remember correctly, I think I might have muttered something along the lines of, "Do you ever shut the fuck up?" Something like that, you know? Directed at him, not at Pearl. But I didn't say anything more after that. I just sat down and sat quietly for the rest of the period, and everyone just went on like nothing happened. But this incident caused a shift with Pearl. I can't exactly remember if we kept texting after that, but I know I tried to go back to normal with everyone and just put it behind us, but things were just never quite the same. I lost basically all my confidence, but my obsession with Pearl remained. As I noticed her pulling back from me more and more, I was desperately trying to come up with a plan to express my feelings for her. And that's when it came to me. I'd gotten really good at art, especially while enjoying some green tobacco. I drew her this beautiful flower. You can see it on screen right now. My best work at the time, using all 90 colors in my colored pencil box. Took me hours, many hours. I wrote a trippy poem on the back too, which is lost to time. It was poetry that actually rhymed, by the way, not that pretentious non-rhyming bullshit. Nothing perverted about her body either, just about beauty and the universe and stuff like that. It was my way of expressing myself to her. So I put it in an envelope, walked up to her and said, "Hey Pearl, how's it going? I've got something for you." And I handed it to her. It was close to pickup time, so we went our separate ways. And to be honest, it was pretty damn awkward, especially since we were texting less at that point, if at all. Definitely didn't talk as much anymore. I remember texting her that night on my little keyboard phone, just to check in, see what she thought of the drawing, maybe use that to accelerate things. And her response was shocking. She actually told me that her dad found the drawing and that he doesn't want me to talk to her anymore. I literally felt lightheaded after reading that, seeing stars. I immediately felt suspicious about what she was telling me. How the shit did he just find the drawing that very night? Unless she told him about it. At that point, I was already drifting toward the black pill, so my mind immediately went to the idea that she was so creeped out by me that she cried to her dad, showed her the drawing, and literally asked him to help her. And to this day, I think that's what happened. All because I got angry one time. Now keep in mind, her dad's a big bearded truck-driving country redneck type of guy. And apparently he called the school and complained about me. Told him some crazy story and boom, I'm guilty without a trial. Now I've got no idea what he actually told them, but I ended up getting moved to a different table in that art class and Pearl never looked my way again. And things got even worse for me at that table when I made a joke that these two senior millennial girls in a neighboring table decided to flip out over and call me racist for. I remember getting so fucking mad about that. I basically took it out on them. I viciously pushed back verbally against these girls. Because things were falling apart for me anyway, so fuck it, why not? Fuck those girls. Calling me a racist. I don't put up with that shit. And I didn't even put up with it when I was 14 years old either. Stop policing people's goddamn jokes. I knew that all the way back in 2010. But yeah, things just went downhill for me after that, after Pearl had her dad condemn me. They had me talk to counselors after that. I thought I could trust them, but I realized they treated me with suspicion and like a liability, when I was the one who was suffering the most and in tears on an almost daily basis. I was developing serious, body image issues. But I realized that they're just looking at me like a potential school shooter. They don't give a shit about me. We're just a problem and a risk that needs to be managed. When I told them about my self-destructive ideations, I thought they would just want to comfort me like a decent human being. But instead, they acted like I needed a mental health intervention or something, even though I was obviously not a present danger to myself. I definitely learned my lesson because I now realize that you cannot fully trust any therapist ever. Any of you guys got treated this way by your school counselors growing up? I'd like to know your stories in the comments. And this is where the obsession just continued to fester and grow. I knew deep down that looking is the best I was ever going to get, so I couldn't keep my eyes off her anytime I saw her around school. And since her Facebook was private, I couldn't even see pictures of her. But my friend just happened to also be friends with her on Facebook, and he would let me look at her pictures anytime we had a sleepover. Thanks for that, bro. Until one day, a couple years later, he decided it was too weird and didn't want to do it anymore. And I got pretty upset. That was my last link to her. especially since come the next school year, things would end up getting even worse. So one summer and 3 psychedelic journeys later, I came into my sophomore year basically shell-shocked and shaking with anxiety from all I had been through with girls, all while my hormones continued to build. I mean, I was hairy, my sweat had a strong, musky odor, and I was having to shave regularly. Those next few years after that were the most sexually frustrated of my life. And to be honest, I kind of missed the rush of pure lust I used to feel when I was that age. I kind of want that back now, and it's making me think about getting older and losing the chance I had to experience any of these things that other guys got to experience. I miss my chance. I'm too old to enjoy it to the max potential that it's intended. Um, my life is kind of wasted at this point. It's really sad. But anyway, back to the story. So I walked into my Spanish 2 class on the first week of my sophomore year, and there she was. I did not expect to see her there, and she was leaving me stunned. She was wearing that cheerleader outfit with that short little skirt. Her backside and thighs were spilling all over the sides of the seat, and her skin was so creamy and pure. And I shit you not, I somehow got seated right next to her. I tried to politely greet her, but she just ignored me. So I just tried to focus on the class after that, but it was really hard for me not to glance over at those legs. I mean, they had grown thicker since the last year. It was a feast for my eyes, to say the least, and I was majorly edging, practically sweating over it. But she was pretending I wasn't there, and that hurt me. It was this acidic feeling of intense, sexually frustrated anguish. Butterflies in stomach, sweating palms, extreme anxiety, and just overflowing lust and feelings of inferiority all wrapped up in one. And the very next time we had class, she was no longer sitting next to me. She was sitting on the complete other side of the room. I didn't try to follow her. And in less than 2 weeks, she had left that class for good. I just became so depressed after that I couldn't keep up with the class either, and I ended up dropping it. Believe it or not, they assigned us another class together that same semester. I can't remember which class it was, and she ended up leaving that one too. And at that point, I felt like a rejected subhuman monster, and it really affected my self-worth. Like, she must really find me disgusting to go to this length to avoid me. And of all things, it was a beautiful drawing and poem that crossed the line. I ended up telling my grandpa on my dad's side about this. You know, he's this old school Azorean Portuguese guy who grew up in Rhode Island, and he thought it was completely fucking ridiculous, and that guy totally overreacted. It's crazy to think how much standards have changed since his time. And that was 16 years ago. I can only imagine how young men are treated today. It's no wonder they've stopped trying with women, or even life. But it also makes me wonder, did I ever really have a chance with this girl, or would I have just gotten friend-zoned anyway? I mean, I did have a ton of competition. It would just be sad to think that because I had one emotional slip-up when pushed to the brink while raging with hormones, that I somehow need to be treated like a dangerous criminal from then on. My grandpa was right. Overreaction. I was never anything but nice to Pearl. We had nice conversations and fun moments before that baboon came along. It just goes to show, meeting girls and women who like you as a short guy is largely down to luck. But it's definitely possible to fuck it up like I did, due to a different understanding of acceptable behavior in society. Of course, as a short guy, it helps to be good looking. But I mainly just got lucky back then and met a few girls who cared more about face than height. But things didn't stay that way. But that's a topic I discuss more in other videos on my channel. Now, this Pearl gal must really be repulsed by me, because even 7 or 8 years later, she still treated me the same way. By that point in my life, I had lost interest in her completely. First of all, she had lost weight, meaning that she lost some of her voluptuous figure in the later years of high school and college. And by the time I was 19, she was no longer my type. My friend and I were 21 or 22 at the time, getting some beer at the local shop in this small coastal forest town. I was stood outside waiting for my friend with a six-pack in my hand. I remember leaning up against the wall and there she is, Pearl, walking the sidewalk right in front of me, passing within 2 feet of where I'm standing. It's the first time I've seen her in almost a decade. I tried to smile at her and see if she made eye contact and then I could wave, but she just looked down or away. I didn't really care what she thought about me at that point, but it still hurts to imagine how the fuck I possibly could have freaked her out that much. It's a bizarre, insane, mentally ill level of paranoia that she has about me. Like, get over it already. Honestly, it makes me wonder if her dad did something to her. He seems like a weird, jealous, possessive freak. And I remember she liked to wear stuff or write stuff on Facebook that talked about being daddy's girl and shit like that. Not bad in isolation, but given the context, it makes you think, doesn't it? And my dad thought so too. I've only seen her one more time after that. And this last time I saw her made me realize something I never quite thought about before. It's crazy to think that I saw her a second time in this tiny Wild West logging town. I don't often see people I went to high school with. I guess we grew up very near each other because this was outside the bar right across the parking lot from the liquor store that we saw each other at last time. But yeah, there she was, standing by a pickup truck, wearing the same basic jeans and hoodie that she always does. But she's with a guy that I used to know from my second high school, and he's no more than a couple inches taller than me and wearing cowboy boots. And a hat. I guess the local kids turn into real country folk after a while. I haven't taken the full plunge, I guess. Too chronically online. But yeah, it made me realize that I may have genuinely had a chance with her. Because when I looked her up again on Facebook, I saw that she was actually married to that guy. So if she would marry him, then it may not have been my height this time around. I may genuinely have had a chance with her and only have myself to blame. I grew up in a family that openly displayed every emotion, so those were my examples growing up. Even so, the reaction from her and her dad was completely over the top. I never meant any harm, and I never did anything wrong. Like, have fucking mercy. Like, sometimes people break down a little bit. Like, cut me some slack for fuck's sake. Contrary to the usual agenda, this story seems to subvert our height pill narrative a little bit. Looks and height are everything. Absolutely. Height especially, in my view. But some situations and some women are different. And sometimes we can do or say something that can ruin our chances if we actually had a shot with our oneitis. But whether their reaction to whatever you did or said is actually warranted, well, that's a different story. But that's what happens when you allow an innocent crush to turn into an unhealthy obsession. It could potentially push you to take things too far. So try and restrain yourself like I did, except a little bit more than I did. But what about you guys? Have you ever blew it sky high with a girl over one stupid moment, kind of like SpongeBob when he ripped his pants?
And now she won't even spare a passing glance. All just because I ripped my pants.
When Big Larry came round.
Did you also experience an excessive response from her family, and the systems surrounding you? Work, church, school, or the local pub? Leave your story in the comments. I read all of them. And if this video hit the spot for you, please be sure to like it, share it, and use your hype points on it. It's a new YouTube feature for smaller channels, and Every little bit helps push the needle. And comment TRUK, which is Truth Nuke shortened, to let me know who the real homies are who made it to the end. Subscribe for more brutal stories and brutal truths. And if you enjoyed what you just watched, you'll probably also like this video here because the algorithm picks it specifically for you. It knows you pretty well, disturbingly well. Thanks for watching.